begin by going to our XZ plane, and we're going to start a sketch on this plane. And from the origin, what we're going to do is we're going to create a rectangle made of lines. So I'm going to start my partial rectangle from here at the top. I'm going to come across, come down, and make a shape that basically looks like something like this. And we're going to put a couple dimensions on here. This is going to be 3.675. This one is going to be 9.3. And the one here at the bottom is going to be 2 1/8. Now that we have that made, what we can do is place this right here on the origin. So we have our partial rectangle here, and as you can see, it's fully constrained right now, fully defined. Now we're going to click on all 3 lines and we're going to make them construction. And what we can do is come to arc, 3-point arc, drag out a 3-point arc, and this one is going to be 1 inch radius. It's going to hit 1 for 1 inch radius. We're going to drag this to about here, and we're going to now create a line that comes from this point, and it's going to come down about 1 inch. And we want to drag out an arc. I'm going to come to the 3-point arc, one of my favorite arcs. So I'm going to click on that point and drag out to here. And I'm going to set a dimension to be 3 1/8. And we're going to make sure that this sits on this point. We're going to click on the 2 points, make them coincident with each other. And so from here, what we can do is we can kind of drag this around. We want to set a dimension about 0.95, like I said before, around 1 inch. And we want to make a second arc as well. And that second arc is also a 3-point arc. And it's going to be connected to this point here. We want this one to be 5.275. And I'm going to make these 2 tangent, these 2 arcs tangent. I'm going to do the same thing with these 2. I want them to be tangent. And what I can do is I can drag this around and basically change the size of the head of this person, because this is going to fit around obviously the head. So I can sort of change that based on how much I kind of drag this in and drag this out. That being said, I'm going to have it at about here for right now. And so one control I could do is I can create a line and make this line tangent to this one. And I can kind of drag this line around, and I could set a dimension between these 2. And that dimension now controls how large this gets. So that's one way to control your dimension. So we're going to save this. And once you're done saving it, what we can do from here is we can build the piece that's going to hold the shield. So I'm going to create a second 3-point arc, and it's going to come from this point out. And the thing about this one is I want to make this one concentric with the first. So it's always concentric to the first one. And so another thing that we would want to do is we want to make this arc tangent to a line. So basically what I did is let me move this dimension. what I did is I brought out a line that's perpendicular to the straight line that's aligned with the origin. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and I'm going to click on this arc and I can make a tangent. Now, if you have some constraints that are stopping you from doing that, that's fine. You can always delete dimensions and kind of work around those constraints. Like just now I had to delete this dimension. It's not a big deal. You just have to get it, you know, to what you want it to be. So I can reset that dimension and I could try again to make this concentric, which it's going to work this time. And so now I have the sketch kind of right where I want it. What I want to do is, let me drag this down a little bit. What I want to do is I want to connect these two pieces. So I'm going to set this at about here for now. And I'm going to drag out a line and I'm going to make it perpendicular, if that's even possible. Make it perpendicular with the arc. And it looks like we can't do that because now it's getting over constrained. Now, as long as this sits at about a 90-degree angle, it should be good. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set a dimension between these two. I'm going to make this about 65. Let's come over to our offset tool. And what we want to do is turn off chain selection. That way we can select individual curves that we want to offset. I'm going to offset these three curves, these three main curves. I'm going to make them negative 0.2 inches so that they come outward in the direction we want. And I'm going to connect these two here at the bottom, which are currently not connected. And as you can see, we now have a closed profile. Now, one last thing that we want to do is we want to offset this line and we want to bring one here. And we're going to make this -2 as well, negative 0.2. And if you need to connect it here at the end, you can do that. Want to make sure that these lines are connected. And we're going to add two lines, one here and one here as well. We're going to finish our sketch. And we want to extrude our profiles. And we're not going to extrude the inside of that piece. We're going to make this about 2 inches. You can make it a little bit shorter or a little bit longer depending on the size of your head and how large you really want it to be on your head. And so now we have our profile made and we need to mirror this to the other side. But let's think about any modifications that we may want to make in this design. So one thing that I can think of is that you may get very sweaty wearing this. And so your forehead is going to be right here in this area. So what we can choose to do is I can start a sketch here at the top and I can create a 3-point arc that just kind of, if you look very closely, it's sort of a serpentine type of path. And it may be a little bit hard to see here, but once we do the cut, it will be very easy to notice what's going on here. I'm going to create another 3-point arc, and it needs to be very close to the surface. And you may need to do some constraining, make these tangent to each other. But basically what we're doing is we're creating a sort of profile that's going to take away some of that flatness on the head of the arc. And I'm going to make sure that all the features that I do are very close to the surface. We're going to finish this up here. And if you need to, you can just kind of create a line so you can get rid of a couple extraneous curves. If necessary, you could use the trim tool. Okay, so there's my little sort of profile there. And I'm going to create a line between them. That way I can execute an extrude cut. So I'm going to extrude cut this profile, and I'm going to extrude cut it all the way down. And this is going to be a cut. And so for the target body, I want to be sure to select this whole solid. Let's try that again. Okay, I'm going to finish the sketch, extrude. This is my profile, these two sketches. And my cut is going to be throughout this whole part. I'm going to hit OK. So now let's sort of get rid of the sketches. We can look a little bit closer here. So as you can see, the surface is imperfect, which is going to mean that it's a little bit more comfortable on the face to wear. And if necessary, if you have some sort of sharp corners here, you can add a couple fillets. And that's really going to help a lot. Having an imperfect surface is actually a good thing. When I look at this from the top, you could see it's sort of wavy. That's what you want. You don't want it to be nice and straight, because then it's just going to be right on your forehead and you're going to be sweating. But if it's a little bit wavy, it helps a lot. Now, you can also add holes here. The thing I don't like about holes is that those holes end up on your forehead. Your forehead sticks through those holes, and it can be quite painful. So this is something I'm trying. And the best thing to do, obviously, is to put foam here. But not everyone has foam readily available. All right. With that being said, what we're going to do is just mirror this to the other side. And it's going to be this whole body. And if we kind of rotate this, I'm going to select this plane. And we definitely have to put a fillet here. So that's our profile. And you can add a couple fillets here. Certainly necessary on the sharp edge. And now we're going to put some mounting locations for the shield itself. And what we can do is we can glue the plastic shield here to this surface. And I'm going to create a couple notches here. Now what I can do is I can start that sketch here. by creating a plane between these two surfaces. I'm going to create a new plane. So it's going to be a mid plane. It's going to be from this face. If we look at this from the bottom, I'm going to select this face, and that's going to make a plane between them. So I'm going to start a sketch here. And I'm going to make a couple of pins and posts wherever necessary. And what I could do is I can project this line, drag it out, and to make it a little bit easier, I can just bring every line to that point. And now I can just set dimensions for, let's say, 20 degrees. This one's going to be, let's say, 40 degrees, 60 degrees. And that's going to make it way easier to place my pins. Now with that newly created thing, what I can do is create some 2-point rectangle type shapes. And I can set a dimension between these two lines. It's going to be 0.25. And same thing on these ones. Going to be 0.25. And really, once we create that, we want to sort of have a little bit of control over how high out they go. Now these are really just pins that are going to go into holes in the visor. So they just need to be placed accordingly inside the profile. And I can also kind of drag them around. Now, what I can do is I can come to Revolve, and I'm going to select this profile and this axis. It's going to be a join operation. And I can do that a couple more times for the rest of these. Now that I've created my 3 sort of dowels, I'm going to mirror them. And so what I could mirror are the features themselves. I'm going to select my 3 features, and the mirror plane is going to be this plane right here, the YZ. And so now we have our dowels. And from here, what I could do is spruce up the design a little bit by adding some fillets. So I'm going to add some fillets just sort of around. I'm going to select all of them really in one feature for expediency. And with all of these selected, all I have to do is drag in. And I'm pretty much going to make these as large as I can go. About 0.268, and that's what we want. It's just going to spruce up the design. And on the top side here, we can add fillets to the inside to make that a little bit nicer looking. And I could add some fillets on these edges as well, as long as it's possible. It's not always possible because we have a gap in the middle. But anything that's going to make the design look better, is definitely worth it. So I'm going to add a fillet here, going to add it to the other side as well. So that's going to definitely look a little bit better. And this is all on the top because on the bottom, that's the side that's getting 3D printed. So we don't want to mess with that side. And so from here, what we can do is sort of model that shield. And the way to do that is we want to start a sketch on a flat surface, which in this case is going to be on this face. I'm going to start the sketch, and I'm going to create an arc that's a 3-point arc, which starts at about this point and comes all the way to this side. And now let me offset this. I'm going to make this, let's say about 15 thousandths of an inch, 20 thousandths of an inch, something like that. It's a very thin shield, which the thickness certainly varies, but for this example, we can set it to what we want. And I'm going to close off this profile, and I'm going to do so on the other side as well. And with that, I'm going to finish my sketch, and I'm going to create an extrusion here. And this is going to just come all the way downward. And this is not going to be a cut. It's not going to be a cut. It's going to be a new body. And it's going to look something like that. And that's our shield. Just like before, we can add some fillets here. I'm going to add a fillet on this side and a fillet on this side. And I can sort of drag this in to make the radius much larger. And I can also choose to change the opacity. I can make this say 60%. And now it really looks around the way it would appear in real life. So that is our face shield. Thank you for watching.